Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. I am joined by the podcast king himself. He's done over 750 podcasts. He is very versed in many different topics. Jeff is in the house. How are you doing, my man?
Good, man. You're my 751st podcast. I'm really pumped about it.
True story, guys. He's never done a podcast before. And look, guys, I spent many days talking to Jeff recently. This is why I love this, because in the business world, like, maybe people know who you are, but now we're going to share your story with a lot of people. And I think there's a ton of value in it. This is why I love platforms like this. So, what I like to do with my guests, Jeff, is let them kind of tell their story where they want to, and we'll kind of go from there.
All right. Again, appreciate you inviting me on this. Definitely don't have the real estate. It's real estate strength. You guys always talk about a lot on this, but pretty excited. So my short story is this: graduated from the University of South Carolina. Went to go work for a company called International Paper. I was working in the corporate office for about 2.5 years. Did not like the corporate office. And they offered me the youngest controller position ever at International Paper up in a town called Joplin, Missouri. This is way before the tornadoes. I jumped on a Saab 900A prop plane, flew up to Joplin, Missouri, sat in the plant manager's office. He offered me the job even before we interviewed. And that's just because nobody else wanted that job. Did that for about 2.5 years. I made telephone poles. We did really great when there was the ice storms. They'd ravage the state of Kansas and Oklahoma, and then we barely make money. 2.5 years later, I'm down in Savannah, Georgia, met with my division controller. She offered me a job in a town called McDavid. I took it. She said, "Jeff, you don't even know where McDavid is. No offense to the people in Joplin, Missouri." I said, "It's better than Joplin, Missouri." Had that opportunity, went down to McDavid, Florida, right outside of Pensacola. It was great. I met my wife there, was a controller at the largest lumber mill in I believe in the U.S. at that time. They had just built it, and really got to cut my teeth on finances, got to understand how plants make money, how manufacturing's done. We just talk about the size. We did about 175 log trucks a day is what we'd process through. And at 25 tons, it's an incredible number. I did that for about 2 years and took a job up in North Carolina working for a private equity group. Was a financial controller over there in a plywood mill. A couple years later, they made me the sales manager. Had the opportunity to sell plywood to the furniture industry through the 2008 and 2009 recession. We went from selling about 45 trucks a week to about 5. And because nobody was buying anything. Really got to understand what B2B business was. Did that for another year, became the assistant plant manager, then the general manager. I became the VP. So I ran both the plywood mill in North Carolina and South Carolina. Had the opportunity to sell those 2 mills to a company called Boise Cascade. And I'm probably speaking a lot about my past. It's like I'm giving you my resume, Austin. I'm not looking for a job. And, which I just realized. But in all seriousness, I went back to the equity group. We bought a company called Merchants Metals. It's one of the largest manufacturer of chain link fence in North America. Had 5 manufacturing locations, 37 distribution yards. Left there. Equity group sent me down to Mississippi. Ran a plywood mill down there. And honestly, about 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago to this day, it's probably late March, early April, my wife called and said, "Look, your son's graduating in 6 months. What are you going to do?" You can't be on the road. I was on the road every week. every other week. And I said, you're right, I can't. Unfortunately, I'm not smart enough to probably get a job, as you guys can hear from this resume builder. And I decided to go out and I bought a company. Got to meet some really cool people during the way. And I bought a company called Carolina Metal Fabricators. And we focus in on industrial fabrication. And I realized how much I love being an owner. It's incredibly rewarding. It's incredibly rewarding all the way until COVID hits. It's incredibly rewarding until you put almost $750,000 into a piece of machinery, COVID hits, and all of a sudden your backlog dries up. Now, unfortunately, the economy survived and we're getting through it. But realistically, it's tough for any small business owners. I feel for everybody out there, and I just enjoy it. Austin, I've talked a couple times. What I do enjoy is trying to figure out other things. Carolina Metals is a great company. It's not my passion. My passion is trying to own a number of businesses, trying to help people out there, trying to work with small businesses, and trying to just grow. Not so much focused on making that dollar anymore. I've done that. It's now trying to help people out. And again, I'm here. Hopefully this story will help people. And hopefully we can have some good questions after it.
So you got a lot of different backgrounds and a lot of different businesses. And then you bought a business that, in essence, you just said that it's not your true passion, even though it's a great business and you love it and you want to do that. But what I'm hoping to inspire people by is that at some point in life, and I'm not saying that everybody has to be a business owner. That's not what I'm saying. But at some point in life, you got to take a chance on yourself in whatever that is, right? And it's not that you disrespected those jobs. It's not that you didn't like those jobs that you're working for. But ultimately, if you want to create the freedom that you seek, you're never going to do that working for somebody else. And what gave you the confidence to go out and buy a business that, at the time, you probably didn't know as well as you do now, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, what gave me the confidence is we had some money saved. With the sales of a few businesses, we had the money saved up. And I realized how easy it is to buy a business going through a small business loan. SBA, the government does a nice job of lending banks money for small businesses. And then I just realized I put all the chips in for other companies. I've, helped other companies get bigger. I employ a lot of people. And I said, why can't it be me? And frankly, it's scary as hell. It's scary starting a business, right? Mm-hmm. I'm on some small partnerships helping to start businesses, and that's scary. It's really scary when you're out by yourself owning a business and you don't have partnerships and everything else, and you're going through the loan process and you're going through the due diligence process. But you just have to have enough faith that you're doing it right. And then once you buy that business and you sit down in your seat for the very first time, and you're the owner and the decisions you're going to make, it's incredibly rewarding and even petrifying at the same time, because now everybody looks to you for answers. And it's not where you have that network where you can call other CEOs or COOs and equity groups. It's just you. And but at the end of the day, it's a great feeling. I love going into work every morning. I love to see what we produce. I love to know that I employ right now like 16 people. It's just a really cool feeling. And being a small business owner gives you freedom to look at other businesses, stuff that you'll never do if you work for a big corporation.
When you mentioned in the first part, I think that your need to buy that business was not predicated on a dollar amount, and you see value in being an owner and employing people and learning. And that's why I think that you're successful in that business, because the ultimate goal is not a P&L sheet, even though you have to follow it. And I think that your need to want and support and train is kind of the gem in that whole situation as a business owner, instead of like, this is going to be the thing that makes me, this dollar amount, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I make very little money compared to what I used to make. And it shows. but in all reality, it's a great feeling when it's your money and you're growing people with your own money. And it's just a great opportunity.
No, for sure.
And you don't get into business. You don't get into business to make big money. I mean, some people do, but that wasn't my deal. I just wanted to see if I could do it.
For sure. And over the years of working for private equity and controller and like who you are now as a CEO, if you had to give your top 3, top 5 tips to any entrepreneur or somebody that's working in any business sector, what would you tell them that they need to be focused on? Let's say they're young or just getting started.
Sure. So the first thing you should focus on is find the right mentor, right? I've had a number of mentors in my life, both in the private equity side and the small business side, where mentors will help you. Now, you don't have to take all their advice, because I didn't take all of my mentors' advice, but they're going to help you and they want to see you grow. So I think that would be the first one. The second one is take as many different jobs as possible. When you start out, I was in corporate credit, I was a controller, I was a sales manager, I was an assistant plant manager, I ran shifts. Do it all. Because once you do it all, you understand where everybody's coming from. And the third thing is, when you're young and you want to get to the top, you can't step on people. You can't step over people. You can't create enemies. Because believe it or not, even to this day, I sold some product to a guy that I knew 15 years ago. And if I had stepped over him 15 years ago, he would not have bought from me today. And it's one of those deals where now I can look back in my pool of people, because I've not screwed people over, and say, hey, help me. Austin, you sent me a text just a few days ago asking a question about some Amazon. I called a good friend of mine. I was like, hey, can you help him out? And if I had screwed that guy over in the past, no way would you have been able to get that contact. And I think that's key. You just can't screw people over, especially in social media in this day and age. You just got to give everybody a fair shake.
And so we're writing a book right now, and one of the sections is called Social Capital. Like, how much social capital do you have, right? And people want to do business with people they like. And I just recorded a rant about being passive aggressive. Like, your passive aggressive bullshit is going to get you, and it's going to get your foot in a bear trap. Like, your little digs and your little things. No, you be firm in who you are. You stand up and ask for what you want, whether that be an employer or a spouse or a friend, and you control the standards that you're living your life by. And don't shit on other people. Don't shit on their ideas. Don't shit on their, with your attitude, and just live your life in accordance with your values. And I promise you, if you don't give up, you're going to win over time by a byproduct of those actions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think those 3 tidbits is what gets you to become a better person, and it sets you up to be a business owner. And as a business owner, the key to all of it is those employees, you work for them. They don't work for you. Mm-hmm. If they need something, you're out there. I don't know how to weld. I know how to read a tape. I don't even know how to work half the machinery. But if there's something wrong with that machinery, or there's something wrong with our forklift, or there's something wrong with the computer systems, I'm all over that, because there I can help. And if they see the owner out there and they see, hey, you're busting your ass trying to help them out, man, they're going to work 1,000 times harder for you. You gotta treat everybody the same.
I never, and this is just, I don't know if it's a weird quality about me, I never want to be the cog in the wheel of business that's not getting done because of my actions. Like, I don't want people waiting on me. And as a CEO, like, your need to control every aspect of your business is sucking the life out of your business. And if your employees don't feel like they're heard and they can't have a floating idea out there, then what's the point of working there? Oh,
that's right. But then, like you and I've talked, you recommended that Built to Sell book, which was great. Mm-hmm. And, and it's absolutely true. I don't run Carolina Metals. I sell the product for Carolina Metals. I have my VP, Ted Thomas. He does a great job. He runs the business. I'm just there to say, hey, look, let's go this way. Let's, sell some product this way. But you're absolutely right. If you're in there, you're never going to be able to see the forest above the trees.
No, I agree. And so, you mentioned that you want to get into other businesses and you want to help entrepreneurs, and, we're talking about some stuff and all that stuff. what gets you fired up? Because I know I've talked to you and you find so much enjoyment and fulfillment from that. What gets you fired up of helping other people start up businesses? Because you're right, it is scary. And there's a lot of money on the line and there's a lot of time on the line. Like what gets you, like what about that aspect of helping others create commerce and business gets you so pumped up?
It's their success. Honestly, anyone that I've helped and you see how successful they've become, you go, wow, they did it. I just help push them along. I help maybe nudge them here or help make them think about this area or that area. That's really what gets me going. And for a long time, I didn't know I had that passion. I discovered that passion a few months ago where I was thinking my passion was, let's just get Carolina Metals as big as possible. And there was a point in my life where we were in the middle of buying a second company. I was all tied up in that fell through. And then I turned out and I said, okay, what do I really want to do? And it's really trying to help small business owners get to where they need to be, because so many small businesses fail because so many small business owners are so passionate, but they never actually step away from enough to go, oh shit, I got to do a P&L statement, or, hey, I still got to make money to provide for the bank, or I got to still pay my employees, or I'm looking at my employees as friends rather than employees. And they forget about that. And if they, that's where I come in and I say, hey, let's just talk about your business plan. Let's look at your financials. And I don't charge, I could care less about, making money on the deal. I just want to figure out how to help them out. And that's been a very strong passion of me, especially over the last few months.
Where do you see the biggest hangups when it comes to starting small businesses? Where are the red flags that you see? Because I coach people. There's patterns in everybody. It doesn't matter where they're born or what business sector they're in. What do you see as the common mistakes that people can try that seem to be the same problem over and over again?
Valuations. People value their companies far more than what they're really worth. And then sometimes you look at as well as where people will sink that ship thinking that they were right. They don't want to look outside. They don't want to say, hey, the horizon's over here. They're going for the cliff, and they're going to hit that cliff because they're just so passionate driving that boat. And I think that's a huge key. That's where that's where I think business partners really come in. And I know in some cases business partners fail, but you sometimes need that yin and that yang. You need one guy who wants to be the credit taker. You want one guy that's going to be the credit maker. And if you have that, that'll be the greatest thing you can. That'll be the best time to run a business. And Gary Vaynerchuk had a podcast on that. And he was like, your partners have to be different than you. You can't be the same. And, or you'll just drive each other crazy. But if you have some differences and you both bring something different to the game, man, it's a game changer.
This is why I'm so excited about our partnership in the construction business, because the aspects of who the other two business partners are against me and the other guy are so different. Meaning he is the pragmatic, analytical, like, hey, let's slow down with the excitement. Let's build a business. And then I'm let's turn the water hose on and burn it to 10, which is great, right? I'm at a point in my life where I can understand both qualities, but this is something they said to me that's very important. They said, we had this business idea and we thought of it as a Kansas City business. Austin took it across the country and very quickly, right? And he goes, you just changed the entire trajectory of that company. Yes, that's great. And I can go sell that, but I can't deliver on the product if I don't have you. And so it's like, and here's the deal. I understand how to sell it, but I don't want to know the mechanics of how they're building it, how they're doing it. It doesn't do me any good, but by only explaining to an end buyer how to do it, but living in it and filling my head with that minutia, it doesn't serve me. It's taken me 38 years to realize that you don't have to know everything about everything, but you got to know what you're good at and then push that forward.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I know I'm good at numbers. Right. Mm-hmm. I know I'm good at numbers. I know I'm good at manufacturing. I struggle at the sales side. But, as long as you got good people for sales, you're set, such as yourself. And I know what I'm good at, and, bringing people in to meet other people. And I love doing that. I love when I can network, working on it right now. A good friend of mine is looking for another partner. I set them up with a perfect partner, and they're complete opposites of one another, but now they click. And, you know, the question was, well, Jeff, don't you want to be part of this? And I said, I don't, because you and I have the same tendencies. Well, I had no value. You know, I have absolutely no value. And one guy looks at me like I was crazy. And I was like, well, I'm not. You know what? I want to grow businesses that I own. I want to help network people together to also grow businesses where, you know, again, you talked about the social credit, right? Getting some social credit. I mean, that's what's going to help us in the long run. You got to put it out there, and it'll come back tenfold.
So funny. 2 years ago, I was in Costa Rica meeting another guy that I knew from my mastermind. It was a young kid who was crushing Airbnb. We were crushing Airbnb. And my dream has always been to own a hotel, like in Costa Rica. We sat down for lunch, and he said, "This is what we're doing." I said, "God, I fucking love this idea. Love it. Like, love every part about it." They had backers, the whole nine. And he said, "Hey, do you want to go in business together on this project?" And I looked at him dead in the face and I said, "No." And he goes, "Why?" And I go, "Because we're the same fucking person. We will get 6 months into this and nothing will get done." Nothing will be done because we're both visionaries. We don't want to do the work.
Right.
And in that moment, I realized that I had worked on myself enough to know that I didn't need to say yes to that opportunity, because there was something greater out there for me with a business partner that fitted my skill set, that allowed me to shine in the light in my strengths instead of the other way around. And it's very hard to understand that. But once you do, then you can be happy for that opportunity that you walked away from. Because you know what they say, saying yes to something is saying no to something else. And so at the end of the day, say yes to the things that in your gut, you know that you should be in, and don't just say yes to everything. Like, I can't say yes to every coaching client. Like, me and an analytical dude, we don't, like, that doesn't jive in the coaching sector. But what's funny is I make all my clients take a personality test, and you know what? We all have the same personality. Go figure. Like, they are attracted to me, right? So there's a book out there called Rocket Fuel, Changed My Entire Life. And basically what he talks about is, if you have a visionary and an integrator, and he defines the roles very clearly, and you put them together in business, and those two lines don't cross, it will create rocket fuel within your business.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I even look at my VP now. You know, the whole time I was like, hey, I'm going to take this business this way. I'm going to take this business this way. And the whole time he's like, hey, you got to hold back. You got to hold back. And I bought that damn machine. I bought some other stuff to get the mill looks completely different. And COVID hit, and he goes, see, this is what happens. And then, you know what? Once COVID was over, and we're racking in more sales than we ever have, you know, because in that case, I was a visionary, you know, but in that case, he's that pragmatic guy to say, no, let's hold back. But at the end of the day, we have good roles, you know, and I absolutely agree with you, you know, and I'm in a partnership with 3 other guys, and all 3 of them are visionaries, you know, and I'm the guy I'm the guy making the product. And I'm like, yeah, why don't we just focus here? You know, I get on a call with them every Friday, and we go from making one thing to making another thing and we've only made one product after a year and a half. And it's true. You got to have the right team.
Well, where I go, right? Because you know what we're building, and I can go. My mind.
I know you can.
No, and not to mention the meeting we have on Friday. Those people take my mind there too, because they have the money and they have whatever. But what I'm saying is, what I always revert back to is, what can I do today to move the needle forward? What shovel can we put in the ground to prove out the thoughts that are here? And then once we prove out the thoughts, then we turn the crank up. But that is all cute out there, and it's taken a long time for me to understand that. All that shit doesn't mean anything until you put shovels in the dirt, till you build the product, till you execute on what you say you're going to do, because the execution of the idea is the rocket fuel, not the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so if I were to, you want to buy businesses, you want to do other things, what is there any business, like, is there any sector of business that you like most or that you're looking to get into? Or is it just kind of, if the opportunity fits, I put myself there? Because what I'm getting at is you build up a set of skills over your life, and that skill, people think that they're stuck in this type of business. Like, I only do this. And I think that if you really stood back from the fray, I think you realize that your skills are probably predicated on a couple different businesses that can maybe find the right peg.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because that's kind of what we on our second business, we only focused in on, and it's a good partner of mine, and we're complete opposite. And he wants to buy a business, and we're both focusing on light industrial. That's all we care about is light industrial. And after we lost the other business, the other dropped, we went to the brokers. We said, find us light industrial. Here's our criteria. And we couldn't find any light industrial, So then it turned into, okay, what else is out there? I don't want to not own an IT company. I know I won't be good at it. Will I be good at owning an HVAC company? Absolutely. Have I ever thought about owning an HVAC company? Absolutely not. So now it's all more about like, hey, where's the cash flow? Where's the opportunity? Let's keep it in the North Carolina, South Carolina region. Mm-hmm. And let's really focus in on, and then what has growth, like what's out there that has a lot of growth, that we can obviously go after, and focusing that has really kind of changed our mindset. We went and met with the brokers in January. We said, this is it. We just met with a number of brokers about 2.5 weeks ago and said, okay, now we've changed our mind. We'll still invest the capital, but now here's what we're going to look at. Yeah. And it's opened up our eyes. So, and everything's really expensive right now, right? Yeah. So all your service industries are incredibly expensive. And so you're like, okay, I'm not going to get into service industries. And service industries is like HVAC and electrical, not restaurants and breweries, although it'd be great to own a brewery. And just focusing more on where the markets are, where the cash flow is, and then just stepping up our game and going after it.
And what I'm trying to bring to light here with people is that over time, they talk about in this new economy with technology and 3D and just, VR and all this shit, a lot of people talk about the true commodity is how quick you can learn something. Like, because everything's changing so quickly. And so as you go on in your life, don't live in absolutes, and understand that every opportunity, right? I'll put it in context that people can understand. I worked at a steakhouse that was like really fancy. Well, I learned a ton about wine and steaks. And then I worked at the best seafood restaurant in Texas. Well, then I learned about oysters, and I learned about things. And then I learned about this. And so I have a well-versed knowledge base on all different types of food and cocktails because I specialize in those things over and over again. So now as a whole, 20 years later, I can cover many sectors, right? And I think that you have to look at it the same way in business is, maybe that job for that 2 years is not the be all end all, but just take that time to learn what that job is teaching you. And then eventually you're going to run up on the business that those skills amassed over certain years set you up for the opportunity that's right in front of you.
Oh, no, absolutely. And my son works with me in the summertime. And, we had a conversation about it coming back to work for me again this summer. And I don't want him to. And I know that's rare because people who own businesses want their kids, to be part of the business and do that whole thing. And I'm like, no, go do something, like we're good friends with a guy up in Alaska who does fishing. I go run their kitchen, like go work in their kitchen up in Alaska, see what they do, don't follow one path. If I followed one path, I'd be probably a VP at International Paper living in Memphis, Tennessee. I would not have owned a small business here in Raleigh, North Carolina. I would not have met my wife. I would not have had the life I've had. And that's just because I got out of that comfort zone and I took the jobs. And Austin, I'll tell you. So when our plant manager was fired and our VP was fired in Moncure, North Carolina, this is how cocky I am, or I was. I go meet with the new VP and he sits down, and we have no general manager, right? And I'm just a financial controller. And he sits down, he goes, Jeff, I'd like to offer you a job. And I said, great, I'll take it. I said, I've always wanted to be the general manager. And he looks at me, he goes, you're 27 years old. You're not being the general manager. And I was like, well, what job what job are you thinking? He goes, I want you to be the sales manager. And I looked at him, a sales manager. And I go, look, the only job I've ever been technically fired from was Best Buy selling TV. And I don't know if I was fired or it was called Christmas layoff. And he's like, no, this is what we want you to do. And I go, this is a horrible mistake. And I came home to Susan. I said, I don't think I can do it. And, it absolutely drove me out of my comfort zone. I'm typically a more quiet, reserved individual. It made me get out. It made me meet more customers. It was a great opportunity, and it propelled me to where I am today. So I encourage everybody, you've got to try a whole bunch of different things. And then once you do it, don't have regrets, never look back, and I think we get caught up in that world too, where, I did as well. When I bought Carolina Metals, you get some instant regret and go, man, I wish I didn't do this. I was, had more of a steady pay and everything else. And you just can't look back. And that's another key advice. Because
people need to understand, when you're in the middle of something or you're knee deep in something, remember at some point in your life, you wanted where you were.
That's right.
And if that's the case, then embrace it and go all in and just let it be what it'll be.
That's right.
There's really nothing more, nothing less. I mean, because at the end of the day, at some point, you wanted it. And so embrace it, because part of the problem with America is that we're half-assed in about 9 different things. And I doubt that you have seen that thing all the way through to know that you don't want it. And my question to you is, the only way you fail is by giving up. And just understand that, maybe some of the best investments that you make are the ones that you don't make. And people don't understand that, because they think they need to buy the next property. And I got to do this and I got to do that. Dude, the market's at the all-time high. You don't got to buy shit right now. There's going to be plenty of opportunities, right? And guess what? When the market corrects, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to buy an HVAC company and a plumbing company and all those things. And if people are feeling themselves, and let them feel themselves, that's why we're going to go out and create a need in the construction space, which is needed. And that's why we're so comfortable with where we're headed, because it's a need. We're not just trying to be the 30th person on the end of this line. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, And so I wish people would spend a little more time visioning out if their product or their service is actually needed, and what differentiates yourself from the herd to create the level of commerce that you're expecting within your business.
Right. No, I mean, it's funny, every job I've taken, I've regretted taking by about the first 4 days, right? Because I wasn't smart enough. I didn't have the education other people had. I always regretted it. And then by about the 7th day, I look around and go, no, I can do this. Yeah. And then by the next 6 months, you're like, man, this isn't bad. And by the next year, you're like, okay, I got this. And you're right. Everybody, it's funny. Everybody thinks they always want that next step too. And I think that's a problem, right? Because a lot of the younger generation, they look at me in a role and they go, Jeff, I want your job. And I go, you want to be the COO of Merchants Metals? And they go, oh, absolutely. I go, you want to travel every week and get on an airplane? They're like, oh yeah, I'd love to travel. I'm like, stay in a hotel room. And at first they look at it and they're like, and I go, give it a couple of weeks and then see if you want my job. Everybody wants what they don't have. Yeah. And then when they have it, they go, man, this is not what I want. And for me, once you take the job, you just can't look back. You got to run with it. It will work out. It always does, and you're going to fail. Yeah. I failed like crazy last year. COVID hit, but I failed. I made investments that I shouldn't have had. Even in my current company, I went a route I shouldn't have gone. I went into commercial, and it cost me probably about maybe $150,000. And it's just things like that where you fail. But this year we're not talking about it. We're saying, okay, we pivot. Let's go to something else. Let's focus our attention here. And frankly, that's what you got to do, especially small business owners. You can't be so passionate that you forget that if you fail, it's okay. You got to make a turn. You got to pivot. You got to go 180. Go do something else. Move your company. As long as you're moving forward, that's all that matters.
No, I couldn't agree more. And If anybody wanted to reach out to you, they wanted to find out more about you, how would they do that?
Yeah, you can reach out with me on LinkedIn. That's really your best bet. My LinkedIn is just Jeff Matuzak. You'll see I post a video. I also have my company's website. It's CarolinaMetalFabricators.com. We're in the midst of changing our website, so don't look at my website and be like, "Wow, this sucks," because it kind of does. We have a whole new realm. I found out what Fiverr was. For everybody who's over the age of like 30 or maybe 35, there's this thing called Fiverr, and literally you can get a website made for $150, and it's the greatest thing in the world. And you can get labels made. Austin knows all about this. I had no clue. A buddy of mine said it, but it's a great deal. And yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can always email me if you have any questions or I want me to look at something. It's jeff@cm-fabricators.com. Comes directly to me. I'd be glad to work with anybody. And honestly, I'm just trying to see young entrepreneurs be successful.
Oh, I love that. Guys, if you like this episode, make sure you send it out to your friends, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.